Hi, in this video we will be looking at colons and when to use them. So, what is a colon? A colon looks like two full stops, one on top of the other, and always comes after a main clause, which is a clause that makes sense all by itself. There are a number of ways to use a colon in your writing. Let's have a look at each one in turn. The first one to look at is using colons to introduce a list. Colons can be used after a main clause to introduce a list. For example, I am going to the cinema with my best friends, Adam, David and Jack. Mum packed the bag for the beach, a towel, a ball and some water. Bring the ingredients, eggs, butter, flour and sugar. Although a colon looks like two full stops, the letter after it is always lowercase, unless the next word is a proper noun. You can see in all three examples that the clause before the colon makes sense on its own. The second way we can use colons in our writing is to explain an idea further or to give an example. For example, Max learnt a new skill this week: how to ride his bike without stabilisers. The storm had caused so much damage. The tree fell into the house and pulled down the wall. She needed to hold on to the dog's lead tightly. He liked to chase the other animals. Although colons are usually used to separate two main clauses, where both sentences make sense on their own, they can be used to introduce a word or phrase that would not make grammatical sense on its own. The words or phrase after the colon should always make sense when read as part of the whole sentence. For example, he knew what the problem was. Not enough time. Now let's take a look at the first question. Which sentence uses a colon correctly? Tick 1. I spent the day with my family, my grandma, my granddad, my mum and my dad. In these sentences, the colon is being used to explain the idea of the girl's family further, and also introduces the list of family members. We know that the colon must come after a main clause, one that makes sense on its own. We can see that sentences 2 and 4 do not make sense on their own up to the colon, so we know that these are incorrect. Now let's look at the differences between sentence 1 and sentence 3. They have both used a colon in the correct place to introduce the family members. However, only one of them has remembered to use commas correctly after the colon. The correct answer was sentence 3. For the next question, you're being asked to tick the box that shows the correct place for a colon to be in the sentence. Sally needed to think carefully about how to make the doll. It looked quite complicated. Pause the video and press play when you have an answer. Did you spot the correct position for a colon in the sentence? The correct answer is Sally needed to think carefully about how to make the doll. It looked quite complicated. We know this because a colon comes after a main clause that makes sense by itself. Well done if you got that right. For the final question, you're being asked to insert a colon in the correct place in the sentence. There was only one thing left in the freezer: ice cubes. You may wish to write your answer down on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, or you might just want to say your answer out loud. Pause your video now and hit play when you are ready. Do you have an answer? Great! Let's take a look at the original sentence. The colon has to come after a main clause, and there was only one thing left in the freezer makes sense on its own, so the colon comes after that. So the answer is, there was only one thing left in the freezer: ice cubes. Well done if you got that one correct. I hope you found this video useful, all about when to use colons. If you're looking for more English help, then we've got lots more of these videos on the Twinkl website, so why not go and take a look?